Here's Jeff Paterson, our Canucks reporter and the host of RinkWide Vancouver, covering the Abbotsford Canucks these days. And boy, what a story they have become. Hello, Jeff.
Yeah, Johnny Canuck will play on into the month of June. It's been a remarkable story, and it was an incredible performance. You think about the factors, and look, I've been with you sort of a couple times each week here, updating Abbotsford, and one thing we've talked about was, star players needed to step up. Well, they got that, certainly. But I look at just the way things unfolded. Like, they weren't very good on Friday night. Give Colorado credit. Their back was to the wall, and they forced it to a fifth and deciding game. And then Abbotsford had to sit all weekend in Loveland, Colorado, waiting and wondering, and they were ready. Manny Malhotra had his guys ready, and the fact that they got 2 wins in the 3 games there in what was the toughest building for visitors in the American Hockey League all season. And guys, I mean, every time I came on, I sort of played up this idea that, hey, Colorado, the highest scoring team in the American Hockey League, Abbotsford's going to have to find a way to slow them down and shut them down, and ultimately shut them out twice. Colorado scored 10 goals in 5 games in this series, and one of those was into an empty net. So, yes, Arturs Silovs was terrific, but really just, again, a team performance in Game 5, the full buy-in, and they were ready to go, and good on them. They were easily the better team on Monday afternoon.
So take us through Silovs, Jeff, not just last night, but the way he has looked in this postseason for those just catching up.
Yeah, well, it's hard to argue that 4 of his 8 victories have been by way of shutout, and in all 3 advancement games, he has completely shut the door. He was sensational early. In fact, really early, like 20 seconds into the game, Colorado had a great scoring chance, and Artie was there and made a stop. In the first minute, they had 2, what I think would be high-danger chances by any measure. And again, he was up to the task. And so he was dialed in, served notice early in the hockey game. Again, a little bit of a nervous start, and that's been a common thread throughout these playoffs. You'd like to see Abby grab a game by the throat early on, but it isn't how you start, it's how you finish. And at the end of the day, 5-0 looked pretty good and told the story there. But yeah, Arturs Silovs, I mean, there have been a few stretches where he has been spectacular, but for the most part, it's just been really economical. It's making the saves that he's supposed to at the times that he's supposed to. And through 4 games of this series, both goaltenders have been really good. Like the former Giants goaltender Trent Miner actually had slightly better statistical numbers than Arturs Silovs, and it kind of felt like, all right, here's a guy that has repped his country at the Worlds, was playing in the Stanley Cup playoffs last year. He's got the experience. He's been in these big situations. This is the American Hockey League, but it's a deciding game with a chance to punch a ticket to the Western Conference Final. They need Arturs Silovs to step up, and he did just that. And so he outplayed his counterpart. Miner was good until the middle stages of the second period. Cole McWard goal, if people have seen the highlight, kind of squeezed through him. One that I'm sure in that moment he would have loved to have stopped, but it made it 3-0, and his team ultimately didn't score any goals for him. So not pinning it on Trent Miner, but Arturs Silovs didn't blink. And, I mean, that's pretty high praise, I think, in 3 games where, you have a chance to close out an opponent, and he has stepped up and delivered and done exactly what they wanted for him. So good on him. He just looks confident. The sort of bugaboo that's always been that long shot and seeing through traffic and maybe leaning left when he should be leaning right has tidied most of that up. Again, it's the American Hockey League level. These aren't National Hockey League shooters, but we're getting down to the best teams in the American Hockey League. And Arturs Silovs a huge part of the story that Abbotsford's putting together.
I want to ask you about Linus Karlsson, who is, a late bloomer candidate here for the Vancouver Canucks. Limited certainly by mobility, not the most speedy guy out there on the ice. But this season, he has 30 goals in 44 games across all competition here for the Abbotsford Canucks. And amongst players that have played at least 30 regular season games in the AHL, he is second in points per game in the American Hockey League. Those kind of stats, Jeff, like, you do have to pay attention to them if you're the Vancouver Canucks. Like, there are quad A players. We have to be on the lookout for quad A players that just don't work. The Reed Bouchers of the world, if you will. But is there a chance he's more than a quad A player? Is this a guy that has just figured it all out a little bit later? And again, I'm not predicting stardom in the National Hockey League for him, but usefulness at the NHL level, is it there for Linus Karlsson?
Well, I think if you back up his story, I mean, his goal scoring separated him from the pack in Sweden. I mean, it caught the attention of the Vancouver Canucks and and National Hockey League teams. And so he advanced up the chain, came over here, and has been highly productive, without a doubt, and was named Abbotsford's MVP, even though he wasn't their leading scorer in the regular season. He was the team MVP this year, and now he has stepped it up big time. The 2 goals yesterday, the one to open the scoring, first goal in a deciding game, massive. Abbotsford has yet to lose when opening the scoring in the playoffs, so it came late in the first period on a power play, but solid shot, picked his spot, and was able to find the back of the net. You do wonder, like it feels like he is one of those guys that is, I dare say, too good for the American Hockey League. He's got himself a one-way contract next year. And so I think all indications are that he's going to be on the big league roster. It's a question of, is he an everyday National Hockey Leaguer? Is he a 13th forward that's going to have to wait for his opportunity? But we saw in his latest call-up in the National Hockey League this ability to get to the front of the net, to take goaltenders' eyes away. He wasn't afraid to go to those areas of the ice. Rick Tocchet plugged him into the playoffs against Edmonton last year because he wanted a little more board battle and the things that Rick Tocchet certainly asked of his players. So it's tough to know where it goes from here, but it does feel like a guy that is leaving the American Hockey League behind. And I'm with you, not predicting stardom at the next level by any stretch for Linus Karlsson, but I do think that there could be a useful NHLer there. And yeah, maybe it is a case of a guy that's just a little later on the curve than most that arrive at the National Hockey League level.
It had been a bit of a struggle for Surrey's Archdeep Baines, Jeff. He hadn't put up many points during this postseason run, but he gets a couple of assists last night, catches up on Archdeep. Yeah,
a pair of primary assists too, and not every assist is equal. And so earlier in the series, he had a secondary assist on a Jonathan Lecker-Mackey goal. But in terms of getting involved, and he was one of the guys absolutely led Abbotsford in scoring in the regular season, and it had a really quiet, underwhelming postseason to this point. And it wasn't like, oh, he's getting chances and he's snake-bitten and he deserves. No, like he'd been hard to find out there, which really made no sense given his pedigree, the fact that, hasn't played in the NHL the last 2 seasons, but scored in the National Hockey League earlier this year. You were expecting him to be a driver and to make some things happen, and it hadn't been there for Archdeep Baines. So gets the primary assist, nice cross-ice feed to Karlsson to open the scoring, and I thought that was a big play. And then he picked up the assist on the Cole McWard goal to make it 3-0 that really separated Abbotsford from Colorado on Monday afternoon. So you hope that there is the proverbial monkey that is off the back there now, and maybe it frees him up, and just a reminder of what he means to this team, what he can do, and what he's expected to do. And now you wipe the slate clean and you move on to a best of 7 against this Texas Stars team that's going to pose certainly a number of challenges as well. But wouldn't that be something for Abbotsford if they kind of get one of their leading guys back and feeling better about his game and finding a way to leave an imprint on the outcomes as he did in Game 5 on Monday?
Not a lot of time to rest. They're the last team to qualify for the Final Four, unfortunately. So I ask this knowing that I probably know the answer, and they've been very cagey about it, but there's nobody getting healthy that we know about, like Aatu Raty's not waiting in the wings here to drop into this Western Conference final, is he?
That's a question that I get more than any on social, and so I made some calls. I haven't got to the bottom of it yet, but I'm hoping that the Vancouver Canucks can tell me and hockey fans at the very least, like, is there a possibility? It's coming up on a month now. He left Game 2 against Coachella Valley, and during this next series against Texas, it'll be a full month. If it's a 4 to 6 week kind of injury, you would think that he'd be back skating by now and knocking on the door late in this next round, or if not, if they advance, be available for the Calder Cup final. The flip side there, and again, we just know nothing. He disappeared from Game 2 down in Palm Springs, and that was the last anybody seems to have seen of Aatu Raty. I guess at this stage, I wish the organization would be willing to come out and say, hey, his season is done. And if that's the case, then it's a bigger question about what happened and how's that going to impact his offseason, because there is a spot waiting for him at the National Hockey League level if he's able to hold up his end of the bargain with a strong training camp in preseason. But would that set him back in any way? So I don't have an answer. But as time marches on, I mean, the hope had to be that if they can continue to play every day, you'd think a guy like Aatu Raty could be a day closer to returning to the lineup, and what a boost that would be in terms of a center iceman with some experience, can add some offense, play in all situations. The penalty kill has been so lights out good without him, which is one of the stories here. 34 for 35 now in these playoffs. I mean, it's just an incredible story to get this deep and give up one power play goal against, but that's another role where you could plug Raty in. So we've put some calls out. Going to continue to try and knock on that door to see if we can advance the story to some degree. But as I sit here right now, I don't know. And to your point about it being a quick turnaround, this is the American Hockey League. They didn't charter out of Loveland, Colorado right after the game. They're flying home today here on Tuesday. They'll get a practice on Wednesday, and then Thursday it's go time for game one of this best of 7. So, in some ways, like they had a week off between the last 2 series. I think when you're playing and playing well and you're into this playoff groove, you want to keep playing. And so in some ways, turning it around and getting back after it on Thursday and then Saturday, not necessarily a bad thing for the Abbotsford Canucks.
And Texas has got to travel too. So, they're not traveling any sooner than today as well. So that's good too.
Hey,
they had to wait. They had to wait to see where they were going.
Where we're going, yes. Is all this success, and of course Manny Malhotra at the helm, is that making life difficult for Adam Foote? I think you've got a lot of Canucks fans looking in going, okay, why wasn't Manny the choice? What do you think? The longer they go here, has it become more and more uncomfortable for Adam Foote that he was the choice over Manny?
I hope not for Adam Foote, but I think it just reinforces that Manny was a really good choice for Ryan Johnson and the Canuck organization. I mean, there were a lot of questions about, hey, he's been a terrific player, highly decorated, and has paid his dues as an NHL assistant, but he hasn't run his own bench. Well, here he is now taking an Abbotsford team in his first year as a head coach in professional hockey to the Final Four at the minor pro level. So impressive stuff. And there have been a number of moments where I think his coaching came into play here through these playoffs. And I go back to the second game in Coachella Valley where Arturs Silovs got the hook and the door was open at that point, I think, for Nikita Tolopilo to maybe get some leash. And Tolopilo fumbled the puck behind the net. Coachella Valley won in overtime. And Manny went right back to Arturs Silovs, and that's proven to be the right call. So good on Manny Malhotra for reading the room and having the faith that he did in Arturs Silovs in that moment. And then there's just been some tweaks here along the way and just lineup decisions. And even yesterday for a pivotal game, sits Akito Hirose down and brings Kirill Kudratsev back into the lineup because I think they wanted a little more puck-moving utility and the power play as well. And they ended up winning the special teams battle. And guys, I really liked the second period on Monday afternoon. You're up 2-0. We always hear about the worst lead in hockey. We've seen Canuck teams at higher levels sit back and try to defend their way to victory, and hasn't always worked. And I think the second period on Monday was maybe the best period of hockey that the Abbotsford Canucks have played in this playoff run. They extended their lead to 3-0. They really aggressive, dictated the way the play was, the pace of the play, spent most of that period in the Colorado end. And so instead of just sitting back and trying to bar the door, they pushed on, and I really like that. And I think that comes from the coach. There were quick shifts, guys were fresh, they were ready, and just continued to up the pressure on the Colorado Eagles, and ultimately they didn't have a response there. So, again, it's been a team effort, and Manny is the guy at the controls, and so he deserves certainly some praise through all of this as well.
We did a prospect rundown with Cam Robinson yesterday, but one name we didn't ask him about, and he is completely forgotten, I think, for most Canucks fans. And yet, correct me if I'm wrong, he seems to be used a lot by Manny Malhotra. Cole McWard, what is going on there? Again, just 23 years of age.
Yeah, you look at the depth chart now and you think Tom Willander and Victor Mancini, and it certainly looks on the surface like those guys have already moved past Cole McWard. I was a little surprised, quite frankly, when I saw that he was only 23, I guess, as a college guy coming out. But he came out earlier than most college guys, so that's part of it. But, yeah, he's just steady at the American Hockey League level. They've got other guys to do heavy lifting on the offensive side, whether it's Christian Wolanin or Kudratsev. But, some of the unsung heroes on this playoff run, Guillaume Brisebois playing with a broken nose, suffered in Game 1 against Colorado, has the full cage going, hasn't impacted his play at all. I watched Jet Wu, and I've watched Jet Wu closely through these playoffs, and quite frankly, as physical as he is, I am a little surprised that he hasn't been able to get an NHL look. But now it feels like there's a logjam in front of him, and his contract's going to be up at the end of the season. So we'll see if he elects to find a different path or if he stays in the organization. But no, I mean, Cole McWard, it's hard to find sort of any weaknesses in his game at the American Hockey League level. It's not about flash and dash. That was his first goal of the postseason. I think he scored 6 in the regular season. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if he can carve a path forward here just as they go about adding to the defensive ranks. They certainly have addressed the right side, and it does look like there are a couple of guys between him and an opportunity again in the National Hockey League. We'll see where it goes, but he's been really good, as all of them have. And when you give up 10 against a high-scoring Colorado team, you know that it's not just the goaltender, that everybody pulling on the rope in the right direction.
And on Wu, guys, we're talking about Linus Karlsson. Does he get a chance? Linus Karlsson's 25. Jet Wu, not yet 25. He'll be 25 in the summer, but Jet Wu feels like he's 27 to me. But he's 24. For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Again, everyday NHLer, no, but I just by the service to the organization, and when you see him at the American Hockey League level, he's a rugged guy. He plays that way. He's not afraid. He finishes every check possible, and every third game it seems like he's got the big spectacular hit in his toolbox as well. And he's had a call-up or two at the NHL level, but still hasn't cracked the NHL lineup, and I don't know if it's going to happen for him. But I hope that he's enjoying this run, as all these veteran guys. I mean, it's not glamorous in the minors, but they do play for championships, and here they are, one of 4 teams still alive in the chase for the Calder Cup.
All right, on Silovs, has he shown you enough, Jeff, to make one of the other goaltenders expendable? We're asking on our Whistler Golf Club poll question, what should the goalie tandem be next year? Demko Lankinen, Demko Silovs, Lankinen Silovs. What says you?
I guess on the surface, I'd like to see a Demko Lankinen tandem that stayed healthy and was available all season long. But at this stage of the game with Thatcher Demko, there's no guarantees there. It is interesting now that Rick Tocchet is out of the way, because let's be honest, Arturs Silovs didn't give Rick Tocchet a lot to believe in, and it was pretty clear that Rick Tocchet did not believe in Arturs Silovs down the stretch. And coming out of the Four Nations break there, I do wonder if they weren't going to play Silovs and he wasn't going to be able to deliver victories when they still felt that they were in the mix. Should they have turned to Nikita Tolopilo a little bit earlier if they needed another option to give Kevin Lankinen some nights off? We know that overplaying Lankinen didn't work out, and we know, looking back over the last couple of seasons, that overplaying Thatcher Demko certainly isn't a recipe for success. It does feel like push is going to have to come to shove here in the crease. You just look at the depth chart. Like Yuri Patera, a guy that has played National Hockey League games, is just sitting out there in Abbotsford, missed much of the season due to injury, but he's under contract for next season. So is Arturs Silovs. Tolopilo is the guy as a restricted free agent that needs a new deal. And then they've got guys below that in Tai Young and Aku Kosvengo. There's just not enough room, right? I mean, it's always a numbers game in the crease. Is there trade value? Is Arturs Silovs sort of rehabilitating his trade value here, or do other teams think we all kind of have an Arturs Silovs in our stable somewhere along the line? But generally, there are franchises out there at the National Hockey League level that want to boost their depth, see the upside in a player. So I don't know the trade value of a guy like Arturs Silovs. I don't know if he's in fact going to be the guy that gets moved, but to answer the question, I guess I would go with the 2 veterans, and I just like to see the 2 of them healthy and sort of see what that workload looks like and how they go about handling and managing Thatcher Demko's starts next season. I tried to ask Adam Foote about that at his introductory press conference. He didn't really get too far down the road, other than recognizing that, you can't overplay Thatcher Demko. I mean, that's the cardinal sin at this stage. We all know that. And I think the Canucks do as well. So, I mean, look, it's not going to be a blockbuster. It may be part of something else, but I do think that a goaltender is going to be moved out here during the offseason, and I think it would be one of those 3 that has spent most of the season in the American Hockey League.
Lastly, Jeff, Brandon Assel had a booth invader last night.
Astle versus Assel.
Astle versus Colorado. All of Colorado. Ever had any similar experiences calling games in the Dub with the Blazers?
It took me back in time to Rowdy Prince George. And
PG.
Yes. A couple of stories there. One, the way the broadcast booth was open to sort of the bowl, and so the last row of seats, you had fans that were like, you could reach out and tap them on the head, and flip side of that is they could turn around and get in your face, and they did quite often. Big burly Prince George guys, after Prince George scored in the playoffs, standing on the seat and basically blocking my view and getting in my face and taunting me as if I had anything to do. I was just the lowly radio guy trying to describe it back to the fine folks of Kamloops. But yeah, I mean, I've seen that kind of thing. I also had a buddy in Prince George that showed up one time, and I'm not sure how he worked his way into the broadcast booth, but sat down beside me, and play was going on, and he had a drink there, and I was a little parched, and I decided that I was going to reach over and just have a quick swig of his Coca-Cola that had been added to. Let's just say.
It wasn't Coca-Cola.
Well, it was, but it was serving as a mix at that point, and I wasn't expecting that necessarily, but maybe should have. But yeah, it was thrown for a little bit there.
It loosened you up for the third, you know?
Exactly, yeah.
Yes.
Hey, no harm, no foul.
Jeff will be back at it with Dave Hall, RinkWide Vancouver, covering the Abbotsford Canucks now in the Western Conference Final, the AHL Final Four here, one step away from the Calder Cup culmination. First time in 10 years the Canucks farm team has made it this far, and of course the first time is the Abbotsford Canucks. We'll be watching, listening, joining you on Thursday, Jeff, and we'll catch up back on this show Friday.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks.